I'm gonna cut to the chase. If you like any of these shows, you're gonna like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Why? Well, we'll get to the specifics later on, but simply put, this show is one of the most gorgeous, heartfelt, and creative shows I've ever seen, and I truly believe that this is the best airing show on Disney right now. So without further ado, here is why you have to see Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Let's start with what is perhaps the most prominent feature of the show. It's creativity. What, did you think I was going to talk about the animation? Well, too bad! I'm not exaggerating when I say that this show is one of the most creative shows I've ever seen. Like, look at the villains! You got this rat dude, a literal big baby, an internet troll who's an actual troll. Okay, these aren't as unique, but there's an evil AI, scratch that, 2 evil AIs, someone who can alter gravity, and the most scary villain of them all.
Capitalism.
What's next? Lunella's own here. Oh, they got that too. And on top of all this, these villains are quite villainy. There's this gal that teleports you to presumably the underworld. The gravity dude nearly kills hundreds of people in an attempt to take down Moon Girl. Heck, in the very first episode, the villain threatens Lunella's entire family. Like, dang, this is serious. But there's one villain I haven't mentioned yet. The Beyonder. Man, he is cool. He's like the Watcher from What If, but a lot more chill and sociopathic. I also love how he narrates each villain and casually breaks the fourth wall, as well as his overall role in the show. Alright, the villains are cool, but what about the actual episodes? Well, Moon Girl is surprisingly mature. A lot of shows initially start with the main character going, "Hey, let's do this thing I probably shouldn't do." Cue bad things happening. "Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I have learned my lesson." And then they proceed to do the exact same thing the next episode. While Moon Girl technically does this as well, the topics they delve on and the manner in which they do so is incredibly well done, and the show lightens the topics with well-written humor. For example, Lunella initially is shown to have an ego, which is not something many heroes have, and it takes multiple episodes for her to overcome it. There's also an episode about gentrification of all things. And if you're worried that the show is too episodic, don't worry, that changes real fast. I'll talk in more detail about Lunella and the other characters later on in this video, but for now, let's obsess over the beautiful art and animation the show has. It is gorgeous! You can tell the producers of the show were very inspired by Spider-Verse, and what I love about this show is how while the backgrounds look like something out of an old comic book, the characters themselves look much more crisp and modern. Speaking of the characters, they aren't animated too much, but it still works and adds to that comic style feel. Honestly, to me this show's animation is a mixture of Spider-Verse, Mattel's vs. the Machines, and Turning Red, all of which I very much enjoy. But it's time to address the dinosaur in the room. The action scenes. Yeah, they're pretty good. At being the best darn thing I've ever seen, I love this art style. The way the colors are brightened and vividly contrast, the background visuals, they're so good! One really cool detail I've noticed is that when Lunella is fighting other villains as Moon Girl, that's when the colors turn bright and flashy. But when Lunella is having to fight her own insecurities as herself, the visuals are much more grounded with more emphasis on the background. This is best seen in the episode where Lunella has to overcome a fear of hers, and the colors change from grounded to contrasted as she switches her persona. Overall, I would give the animation a solid 8 out of 10. My only complaint being that action scenes feel a little repetitive after a while, but the show makes up for that in this next part. The soundtrack! It is so incredibly unique. Most shows have a soundtrack producer who creates background music, which is usually just instrumental OSTs. However, in Moon Girl, it is pop and funky beats for the most part. I also love how the show segues into scenes with a break and change in music. But let's talk about the actual songs. Most episodes have 2 songs, one during the rising action and one during the climax. While the art style may get repetitive during the climax, the soundtrack is so dynamic and versatile and fits the current situation and theme of each episode perfectly. My personal favorite are Alt is Guts from Casey's episode and The Wave from the Capitalism episode. Alt is Guts has just such a nice vibe to it, and Lieb Barrer does such a good job portraying Casey's emotions. The Wave is also just really nice to listen to, and I love the part when the Mega Muffler drowns out all the sound, but the LED fights back, with Moon Girl riding on literal sound waves. Soundtrack is a solid 10 out of 10. Let's move on to the characters themselves. The main cast of the show consists of Lunella, Casey, Devil the Dinosaur, and I guess Lunella's family, although it is mainly Mimi, Lunella's grandmother. Lunella, being the main character, obviously has the most in-depth personality. As stated, she is initially shown to have a bit of an ego and is highly competitive, but at the same time, she has social anxiety and finds it tough to make friends. You know, like every other main character in modern-day television. Even when Casey offers her services to her, it takes a few episodes to go from acquaintances to best friends, which is something I love about this show. Its realisticness. I love how over the course of the season, Lunella and Casey become closer and closer friends, and how they even mention the absurdity of their situations, such as Lunella mentioning how weird it was that Devil never saw her room until a much later time. Even the lesson episodes are realistic, such as when Lunella wants to skip the boring parts of her life, or when she is overwhelmed with being a superhero and needs some alone time. Basically, Lunella matures throughout the show as she tries to balance out her personal and superhero life, and it shows. Anyway, so now that I've praised the realisticness of the show, let's talk about the literal dinosaur in the room, Devil. I don't really know what to make of Devil. Despite being the sidekick, he's really more of a comic relief side character. I mean, sure, he gets a few episodes in the spotlight, but we don't know that much about him besides the fact he's all sunshine and hot dogs. And personally, I find the episodes about Devil to be more of the less interesting episodes. However, I like it this way, as the show then really highlights the relationship between Lunella and Casey, whom I'm going to talk about now. Casey is interesting. I like how she and Lunella initially meet and bond, as well as her role on the team. As for her character, well, she is still the fun side character in the show, but not the comic relief fun, more of the fan favorite kind of fun. I initially thought she was going to be rather annoying, but I was delightfully proven wrong. While Lunella is depicted as this huge science genius, Casey is a genius in pretty much everything else, and I love how the reason for her being so is that she watches a lot of media. Casey's episode really changed her as well, as after that, we see the two of them banter and joke with each other much more often, and it is quite sweet to see how the two play off of each other so well. There's Mimi as well, but she's just kind of there as a supportive figure for Lunella, nothing too crazy about her. The last thing I want to talk about is the representation in the show. Fragile Snow lore reveal. I am your average American, meaning that I know very little about other cultures. But this show has everything. A variety of cultures, representation of LGBTQ+, Alabama! Okay, seriously though, I love how diverse Moon Girl is, and I love seeing all the cultures represented in the show. And I also absolutely love how casual the show is about it. Oh yeah, Ty over there goes by they/them. Oh, by the way, Casey has two dads, hell yeah! And then there's the sense of community between Lunella and the LES, where she lives, which I find to be very sweet. It's cool to see how more modern shows are having more representation, and I can't wait to see where the show goes. So basically, you gotta give the show a watch, because trust me when I say, it is worth watching. Okay, I lied. One last thing I want to mention are the references in the show. You got the usual Marvel references, Maria Hill, Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man and Deadpool and whatnot, but then you also have Clifford, Naruto, and Rata-frickin' Tui!